Thank you.
Okay, just to remind members that this meeting is being streamed live to YouTube. I'm also going to make a recording of this meeting for the purposes of the minutes. So just hear a prompt now. Ashley, if you could just start the live.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you. And it's all yours, Chair.
Thank you very much. Everybody, welcome to the Growth Scrutiny Committee for today. We'll start with item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Apologies from Councillor Mike Rowe, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Any declarations of interest? No? We're going to whiz through this, aren't we? Item number 3, minutes of last meeting to approve as a correct record and the chair to sign the minutes of the growth screen. Any issues with the minutes from the last meeting for anybody? No? Oh, so excellent, good. Right, item number 4, scrutiny review. This is triangulation of evidence. I think at this point, Sue, if I could just sort of bring you in to just explain to everybody what it's all about. Item number 4, if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Yes, not at all. Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to remind members, this item is where we triangulate all the evidence that you've heard in connection with your review of tourism, business and non-business. A number of the documents that you've seen in the year have been attached to the agenda to remind you, because obviously some of this stuff you looked at several months ago now. So to remind you what you've heard, including minutes of each of those meetings, because of course you've also spoke to people as well. So what we need to get for this item now is your thoughts and conclusions on what you've heard, with the view to submitting a report to Cabinet of the Council on your suggestions regarding this subject. Now, the way that we usually do that is in 3 stages. First, and I'll repeat these when we get to them, but I'd ask you what you think you've heard that indicates you are working well as a council in delivering this tourism area to the public. Then I would ask you to identify items that you think aren't working so well, whether it's perhaps that we're not doing something you think we should be doing, we're doing something but you think we're not doing how you'd like to see it done and you think we could be smarter at it, or anything that you just think you might wish to make a comment on that might be considered for inclusion in the report. And arising from that discussion, particularly on what's not working so well, then to highlight any possible recommendations you want to put forward for discussion within the committee for submission to Cabinet. And then what will happen at the end of this stage, I will obviously make a note of all the things that you say. Damon and Ash will also be capturing the debate, and then I will write up over the next week or so a draft report for you, setting all your thoughts out in that report, which will come back to the next committee for you to finalise and make sure it covers what you want to say to Cabinet about this subject. And it's, you know, it's there at the next meeting for discussion in case you've missed something or you think something perhaps doesn't need to be included. So, you know, you get a chance to review what you've discussed and decided and then finalise your report ready for submission to Cabinet. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sue. I will just say before we crack on with this, everybody, it has been a peculiar year. Obviously, it's been a peculiar year, and the tourism stuff has only sort of really come to us quite late. But I don't want that to stop us putting stuff forward, even if it's just ideas. Obviously, Sue's going to we'll write the report up for us, but I don't want us just to say, well, we don't know anything because of what's happened. There must be elements of this that we can comment on. Okay. Would anyone like to start us off? Any thoughts, anybody? Am I turned on?
Mm-hmm. Anthony?
Yes, Diana. Hi, Dan.
I don't mind kicking off.
Oh, thank you.
There's always one. It's normally me.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance, to be honest, to have a good look at this because of other impacts on my time. What I want to say is I think Carolyn has worked incredibly hard with officers on this. And I quite like the visitor economy strategy that we were saying. Yes, you're right. There's things that we could look at differently. But this is quite an interesting document. And I do like the way it's been set out, that it's just not all words. And I think we really need to be quite positive on moving it forward.
Yes, I think you're right. And I had just chance, well, by chance, to speak to Jill Cullingham actually about another matter on this, and asked her if she would take a subject, part of the tourism thing. That what it is. It's in Dronfield. I want to bring the market back, and I spoke to Jill, and she did push it onto one of her officers, and they have contacted us within a couple of days. So they are actively wanting to promote tourism within the towns. So yes, I agree with what I've read. I'm quite impressed with it too. Nick, can I bring you in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just on that document, and I will agree with what's just been said. It is a good document. Page 16 or 27, whichever page numbering we're looking at, page 27 or 16 shows our weaknesses. What obviously, without having the ability to scrutinize all that, what have we mitigated our weaknesses? So we've identified them. Either does this document, or are there other things in place that mitigate and obviously create the opportunities we need to reduce our weaknesses or combat them?
I think, well,
I don't know who we asked that to.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I'm not going to be able to answer that question.
Sue's got a hand up.
Sue's got a hand up.
Sorry, Sue. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm like that annoying girl in class, aren't I? Who always puts her hand up. I'm so sorry.
You can never be annoying. You are my security blanket, really.
No, but that is a very good question to ask. And in fact, it's one of the questions that I had on my prompt list for you as we go along through this process. And of course, I've had the benefit of being with the committee for a long time, so I saw the last 2 tourism reviews they did, and that's really is the question. And I some of the things I thought about when we were talking about weaknesses is, from the previous review, there were things that have been suggested there, and some work had been done, but of course with the pandemic, a lot of that has not necessarily moved on as far as you might like it. So can I just ask a few questions to the committee, and then come back to that question that Councillor Whitehead's raised, and refer it back to what you've heard, and then you might have some opinions on whether you think some of that has been actually hit or whether some of it needs further work. So the questions I would say is what we offer to business, is it the right thing? In the visitor economy strategy and what you've heard from the director, do you think we're doing the right thing for businesses in terms of tourism in the district? Do you think our engagement is working well? We've heard from a number of people who aren't directly employed by the council but link into our provision of tourism. Do we have the right performance indicators in place to measure the right things effectively? And some members that worked on the business centre review will remember you had a discussion around performance indicators on that, and asked whether we had the right indicators to actually know whether what we was doing was being effective. And I think that same question applies within this review, whether you think as members you have the right indicators to tell you whether you think this has been done how effectively as you'd like it. Connectivity in the visitor strategy, and also when we've talked about the growth strategy, connectivity has been an issue. How well linked is our district in terms of public transport, cycle networks? We had that discussion from the gentleman, Andy Heath, I believe his name was, from DCC, about the cycle trails. Now, interestingly enough, in the previous scrutiny review, this was an item was what was on there as not necessarily being as strong as you'd like it to be. And obviously we've moved on some, but you heard that stuff from that officer and also within this document, which may lead you to a conclusion. Also, from the previous review, and also what we've heard raised, and also in this visitor economy document, you've got an issue around identity and brand. Do we have a clear identity of what we offer in tourism? And, is it branded? Are we getting out what the council has to offer in this area? And my last one, Chair, how well are we promoting our offer and our businesses that we have in the area? So I don't know whether that helps in helping you identify your thoughts around the question that Councillor Whitehead asked. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, just going back to the brand thing, I don't feel that there is a brand out there. When you think about the Peak District, you envisage something with no particularly. So as regards the brand, it's not. I wouldn't say it was particularly strong. The connectivity we've like I say we've discussed quite a bit. Well, whatever else thing. Nigel, you're on mute, Nigel.
Oh, I was just finding my mouse. It's buried under all my papers. Before we start getting into all that, I'm just going back to the opening remarks about going through, what's working well, what's not. Should we stick to that? I'm just putting a bit of structure to it, and then I think if we do what's working well, and then we can come back one at a time to those. I've written them all down, what Sue's just said. So
Okay.
we're not jumping about, because I thought that the structure is, I think what you said, Sue, was let's identify what's working well. We can do that, and I think the document's brilliant. I like it. It does everything it says on the tin. And like you say, there's been a lot of work going into it. I think did we agree to set on as a council a tourism officer? If we did, that's great. I think that's, all them things are positive. And I'm happy with those. Which I don't know if anybody wants to add anything else about what's working well. And I agree with you, Sue. I think some of those mitigating things that Nick's just said, we need to then identify how we can improve on them, don't we? If we sort of that, I'm just trying to add a bit of structure to that. Is that okay?
That's fine. I think it's a good idea. Yeah. So as regards the what's working well, any comments on that, Nigel? Is that what you want to go with? Or
I say I think we're a long way down track with this document, aren't we? I think there's been a lot of work over a lot of years, so hasn't there? It's not something that's come out at blue. It's something we have our keen when we were in control to sort of build on that. We've always got this problem, that we're not Chesterfield. And we're not the Peak District, so we've got a problem with that, and now we fit in with all that. But I do feel we have progressed. We know our strengths and our weaknesses, and we've got to work with them other places, haven't we? And Bolsover, with Bolsover Castle and one of the other, we just haven't got that identity that others have. So I think this document's a good start, and setting on the dedicated officer will be a real plus. I think that's my pluses on the matter.
yeah, I agree what you're saying there. Diana, did you have your hand up, or was it?
Yeah, I think Nick had his up before mine.
Oh, Nick, would you like to jump in then, sir?
It would end up segueing across from where we've just gone to. So I'll bring it up later. So I think if we carry on with the current theme, and then I can bring my points up later.
Right, Diana, we'll go back.
Mine were along similar lines to Nick, mainly regarding our weaknesses, so we could move on. I do agree with what Nigel said. I think having the new officer on board is going to be a great way forward, because at the moment we don't have an identity, and that's what we need to promote. We need to have an identity.
Yeah, which is exactly what I was saying about the brand side of things, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really. Do you want to Oh, you're frozen. Oh, you're back. Yeah, go on.
Yes, thanks. Just on the connectivity and identity, what's an interesting point is how we work together with other councils. So, you know, this is not for us to be like Lone Ranger going out there trying to get this over the line. Parishes obviously can serve, you know, a great partnership, and I'm not sure what we can do with county as well. But you know, we should be probably talking a lot more about that, and we talk about connectivity in that respect with our partners, so that you know we can have a more meaningful impact together. And what it depends which area we look at depends on what kind of impact that will be. Anything from Killamarsh has its own kind of areas for tourism, and could it work with a parish there, Drumfield, you know, all the areas that where we could have an impact. How can we work with our partners, i.e. other councils?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Lee, do you want to join?
Yeah, I agree with the document is very good. It's very clear, and I think it does set out a lot of the things that we're covering. But I think Nick's right in what he's saying there, is that I do think we need to work close together with other authorities, because we border Bolsover, we border Ashfield, and obviously out to the north with these other Sheffield that we border onto, and we need to link in more with them. And obviously we cut through Chesterfield really a lot of it, so all that needs to be linked in, and I think closer work with all those authorities ought to be a mainstay of moving it forward.
Yeah, positive that. Yeah, I agree. Oh, John, can I bring you in, sir?
Yeah, just a few comments really. The document is pretty decent. It identifies strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and all the rest of it that we probably have already knew about, really. I'd be more interested in the promises that are made in this document and how they're going to deliver it. And if you look on page 14, it talks about capital investment to improve the offer. It talks about creating a festival and events destination. And it talks about maximising growth through tactical marketing. Now, all those three are pretty decent, pretty strong statements, but the council's got to deliver on that. And there's not a lot of substance in this document on how and when and who is going to deliver on the promises that are made in the document. So that's my only comment. It's a nice document, but who's going to deliver it?
Yeah, thank you, John. I see. I too see what you're saying there. Yeah, it's right. It's easy to write stuff down, isn't it? But are you gonna back it up? Susie, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the visitor attractions on page 3. I'm sort of like a bit unsure why golf courses are the first thing in the key, and I'm incredibly disappointed that the Five Pits Trail isn't actually named in there. That's for where I live. It's just a gem, our kit bag. And although it talks about the William Thorpe Nature Reserve and Homeward Woodlands, it doesn't mention the actual Five Pits Trail, which I think is a bit of a shame. And I was going to say something. Sorry, stupid phone's ringing.
Yours.
Oh, in answer to John Funnell's question, I do think we're moving forward, because I've been in one of these scrutiny meetings about 2 years ago where we talked about visitor attraction. We talked about our tourism strategy, and employing a member of staff and having this statement is a massive stage forward. It's further than we've got before. So I'm well impressed with where we're moving and the direction we're moving in. Obviously, I wish it had happened 5 years ago, but it's moving in the right direction. And I do have to query why we're putting golf courses first on this visitor attraction and not nature reserves and not cycling routes, because we had that brilliant guy come in and talk about how he'd extended the cycling routes. And what we really need to be thinking about is what is our USP, and our USP has to be our nature areas and our cycling routes. That has to be one of the key things, and that helps with the climate agenda, in my opinion. I just don't understand why golf courses are. It's not alphabetical. You've got attractions halfway down. You know, why have we prioritized golf courses? I just find that an odd thing.
Nick, can I be, thank you, Susie. I'm with you a little bit on that. But Nick, what?
Yeah, I don't think golf course has been prioritised. I don't understand what you're saying, Susie. He's probably got top page. He's on the top page, but I don't think it's prioritised. And by the way, golf is all right. I mean, maybe we don't all play it, but golf is all right, and it probably brings, looking at those courses, it brings thousands and thousands of people to our area. Not to mention the money that they spend. So it's certainly got a place in there. I'm not sure if it's a priority, but I understand what you're saying. It's taken top spot on the page.
Yeah, John, please.
Yeah, don't you think we're in trouble a little bit with the attractions if the top 2 attractions in our area are Matlock Farm Park and the Centre of England tree in Moreton? I mean, that's not going to. Those 2 aren't going to attract tourism to North Derbyshire, are they?
The truth is, John, again, I'm agreeing with you totally there, because there must be lots and lots of other things that would perhaps take a priority, if you like, as an attraction above a lot of these things. There's things in Dronfield where I think, well, it's not that appealing, but maybe they put in a selection on here, and rather than the actual, you know, I don't know. Diana.
Going back to some of what's on there, I mean, we could all find something to put on there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But Jill did ask for us to actually send in to her what we would prioritise. So I think we shouldn't get too bogged down with what's actually on here, because it is a working document. And for me, I'd have put walks and trails at the top instead of golf, but that's, you know, me. But there you go. And the events. Yeah, attractions, we're very fast on attractions, but at the end of the day, it's still a working document, and it's a growing working document. So if there's things we really want to put on there, let's get them out to Jill so that the next time round they are on there.
Good point, well made. Nick, please.
Let's just be, thank you. Let's just be mindful that this is not, although this is a public document, this is not a document that tourists will be reading.
No,
it really isn't. I mean, very few people will read this document. It's obviously important for us as a working document, but very few people will use this document. So we just need to be mindful that it's more for information than anything else. And yeah, whether there's an element of prioritization going on, I'm not so sure. I don't think there is. But and I think he was right saying that we were canvassed about our opinions and flagging up the areas of interest. So it's only as good as what information's been passed down as well in that respect.
And plus, I would say if you've got strong feelings, which obviously we have got strong feelings, this say something. You just got to say something, and I'm sure something like this is for everybody. It's not political, so it just wants bringing up. Okay, right. Where are we going to move on to now?
So, Chair, if I can just come in. So you've said something about brand. So I presume you'll want some sort of recommendation on that.
Yes.
You've said something about connectivity.
Yep.
And identity.
Weaknesses.
Yes.
What I'd like to see is we've listed the weaknesses. Next to that list, I'd like to see what the mitigating, what are we doing about the weaknesses? It's that simple. Let's not overcomplicate it. It needs a paragraph or more. I don't know how much we go into it, but I just want to ensure that the weakness has been identified, which is great. What are we doing about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sue.
Yeah, and I understand what Councillor Whitehead's saying, but obviously the power of scrutiny obviously is the power to influence through the recommendations that you put. And for those things that are down there, I would actually make a recommendation out of them and ask to have a response within the action plan that they will do, setting out how they deliver them. And that will mean that each individual one would actually get a response. If you just say, you know, we'd like to know what you're doing about that, it's a very broad thing. If you actually put all of those down as individual recommendations, then they will have to deliver as part of that action plan a roadmap for how they're actually going to deliver each of those recommendations. And that allows you to monitor them over time. So they might make good progress on, say, a couple of them, which you're very happy with. But the fact that they separated out, you can then track them and then ask specifically for and bring an officer in, say, to update you on something that you think is not being developed as quickly as you'd like to see it. I don't know whether that's an approach that the committee would be happy with.
Well, I certainly would. I'm sure. Just looking around, nobody else is shaking their head. Susie, you've got your hand up. Sorry, can I bring you in?
Yeah. So, sorry, just getting my head into gear about this, and I understand where Councillor John Funnell's coming from, really, because we need to also know how much money is Five Pits Trail. We have an awful lot of fly tipping on the Five Pits Trail, and we have limited resources of the rangers, and the rangers' posts are being decimated at the moment. We have about 3 rangers attached to our area. We've now got about 0.5 of a ranger. So if we're going to promote this area as a tourist spot, we also need to be mindful of keeping it tidy. And so when John was saying, I'm assuming I'm paraphrasing on your behalf here, John, so you can stop me if you wish, you know, how much are we throwing at this? How much money is going to be dedicated to this? Not just a member of staff, but are they going to have the ability to sort out problems in order to raise our profile? One of which I believe is going to be a massive problem, which is fly tipping and the lack of rangers that we have. Oh, and can we not have, on page 16, can we not use the junction 29 with the M1 because it is the biggest car park at 5 o'clock and at 9 o'clock in the morning? Not a good sale pitch.
That one's okay, Susie. There's no cars on there, hardly.
Not,
I know
obviously not taken at 9 o'clock or at 5 o'clock.
Lee, you got a hand up. Lee?
Yeah. I would also add that, you know, a lot of these things that are highlighted, is a lot of them are out of our control. We do rely, obviously, county own a lot of the land that runs, you know, the country parks. So we're reliant on them for their commitment as well. So that's a difficult area that we need to try and address if at all possible. You know, all the routes that go through, they're all owned by DCC, and the rangers, like Susie's saying, that they're DCC employees, not North East. So it's difficult to want to solve that.
Yeah, and I suppose that goes back to the connectivity, doesn't it? Really, like making sure that everybody's involved, all the message gets across. Sue.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that point, Chair. And of course, scrutiny, when it makes recommendations, often focuses specifically on the things that they can directly influence, because that's where you have the power to change it yourself and take that decision. However, it does have a role in trying to influence its partners, including DCC, and so may make a recommendation or comment to whichever partner, you know, highlighting that you'd like to see improvement. And of course, you know, members have influence for all sorts of ways, including some members who are DCC, and it's about how much pressure people want to put on to try and get some of those things to work well to help the district deliver what it wants to deliver.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I'm only speaking about previous reports, Chair, where we've sometimes made recommendations which we have no influence in the sense of any real power over, but a comments being made or recommendations made, say, to county, and county have actually responded quite positively and done some things that the committee were happy that they'd actually picked up.
Yeah.
I would like to raise in that report then about rangers, lack of rangers. It's becoming a massive issue then.
Okay, thanks, Susie. Lee, please.
Yeah, just on a positive note, we have managed to unlock some funding that's going to open up one of the connection paths through to the Avenue site, which is going from the green at Asland, which has got some funding from Big Local and Derbyshire County Council. But going back to the issue with most of these places being owned by Derbyshire County Council, it's taken 5 years for that to happen. And the funding, some of the funding has been there for a long time.
All right, Nigel. Nigel, please. I think you're muted. Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm just yeah, got it there. Again, I'm trying to just think here. I've got a list, and I agree with Nick about the weaknesses. I mean, there's some of them that no district capital, well, we can't alter that. But I think there's some of those things, and they do. I'm looking at the list that Sue gave us at the beginning, and whether we should answer some of those questions, and how do we? I think you said what we offer businesses, is that right? I think that was the first question. So are we, to help promote businesses that are supporting the locally, the tourists, if you like? Because one thing that sticks with me, and Leo backed me up, there's a little van started coming to Grassmore Country Park, and it's a massive attraction. It's only a little one of these you can move about.
Mean coffee they do, don't they?
By all accounts, I didn't go yesterday. I were on 5 pits, but I didn't go down because they said it was packed out with people. Poolsbrook Country Park, I went there 3 weeks ago, and I mean, if whether it were COVID saves another matter, but there must have been 500 people at Poolsbrook, and they were serving coffee. So little things like that. Are we supporting the businesses that will help attract people to things? That's, I don't know how we put that into a form of words, saying yes or no. I don't know, just really. And also, I think we've talked about connectivity, which is fine. I think we're all on that. But performance indicators, I think you mentioned as well, Sue. And I'm just wondering, how do we monitor all this? And because it goes back to John's argument. Might be a good document, but so what? Is the answer? Is the question?
Yeah, Sue.
Just in response to that, Chair, I'm sure that arising from this strategy, there will be an action plan prepared for how they're going to do it. But also that is one of the roles Scrutiny can play, because if you, as I say, put these in your report, then you will have your own action plan that Cabinet has to provide to you within 2 months of receiving the report, which you then monitor in the committee over the following year to see how well they've been delivered.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Nick?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just going back to Nigel, actually, this document, yeah, like we say, is a good document, and so what? Well, the so what actually is this is our audit document. This is the one that we go back to, and we every meeting we read through it and we scrutinize it in terms of the plan against actual. That's what we do with the document. Obviously, it'd be great if we had more details and stuff like that, and that will come out. But the documents serves its purpose in that respect. And obviously, officers and anybody else, even Cabinet, need to take care with putting wide-ranging rather than specific things in the document, because then when it does come to scrutiny and audit, there's too much ambiguity going on. So I don't particularly see that as a case. But that's what the document's for. You know, it's for us to use to scrutinise, and it's for the officers and everybody else to work towards. That's what the document's going to be used for.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Diana, you had before John. Can I ask you? You had your hand up, Diana.
Yep. Thank you for that. It's similar lines to what Nick's saying, but I'm just wondering, we're saying it's an action and it's to be scrutinised. Can we put time limits on for these action plans to come to the scrutiny committee so we can see what performance is happening, what positive steps are happening, where we need to be really looking at to move things forward?
Thank you for that. Sue, I'll
Sorry,
come back to
Chair.
you, John. John, I'll come back to you.
Oh,
Go on,
sorry,
Sue,
John.
but John's got that question.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I'm probably sounding like a broken record, but this is the benefit of your scrutiny view and the action plan that will come for this document, because you can schedule that into your timetable, and as part of your scrutiny review action plan, you can put something around having regular updates on whatever, or you can say a specific date, but obviously that's a bit more difficult because you know there's a lot for them to sort out, for the council to sort out, so it might be difficult to say, right, we want this by this date and that, but you could put a broader thing about, you know, in 6 months we'd like to see an update that demonstrates that this has been met, that sort of thing. That's for you to work out how you want to word that, but that's perfectly possible. But you would expect as part of the action plan that they, because you know strategies always have usually an action plan that sits behind them, setting out how they will be how and when they'll be delivered, and which officer is going to deliver it. So I would imagine that you'd want that document back as a matter of course to your committee to monitor delivery of this strategy. But as I say, you can put more specific ones in your report if you want.
Thank you, Sue. John.
Yeah, I better just put the record straight. I don't think it's a bad report at all, and I wouldn't bin it at all. But the point I was trying to make it's got a lot of headline sentences in here, the headline commitment, and the detail is in the information is below that. I mean, I'll just pick 3 out. You're going to develop a program of support for business engagement. That's great. That's what we want to see. But I'd like to know how you're going to do it and when you're going to do it. You've got another one, work with partners to create an annual event. Well, who are the partners? What's the annual event? When are you going to do it? So it's really putting some flesh, and it's building on what Susie and Niall probably did before. You're taking it a step at a time, but you've got to start to deliver something. And I would be looking at some of the comments here. That's good words. What's behind it and when is it going to happen? That was what I was trying to point out, really.
Yeah, thank you, John. I think as Nick said earlier, and this is not to answer your question really, but putting flesh on the bones, because it's a working document, then we go into the fleshing out of it. I would guess, Nick.
Yeah, just to add to that, let's remember this is a strategy, and strategy is top level, and after strategy comes the detail, maybe smart objectives, the specifics, the measurables. Everything's got a time and an accountability to it. So this is a strategy, and yes, so it will not include everything that's needed to be in there that we want to see. So let's just be mindful that it is that kind of document.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Okay, folks. Where do we go? Sue, can I just turn to you? Where do we go from here?
Well, enough information to write a draft report for you, and then perhaps when it's down on paper and you see the things there, you can knock it about more and you know, finalize it and make it a bit more exactly what you want. Just to come on from what Councillor Whitehead said, you know, I might put something in there about monitoring the action plan that sits behind this strategy, because exactly it's about what comes after this strategy as to how it's actually delivered on the ground, and something that you can actually measure and make sure is having an impact.
Right, thank you, Sue. Yeah, and this is obviously the first time I've been chair of this committee. And when I first took it on, I thought we just sat around and did a lot of chatting, to be honest. And I thought, well, it's not, doesn't seem to be going anywhere. But now it's sort of filling out a little bit, and it's sort of starting to make a little bit of sense, certainly for such as me who's new to it. So yeah, it's been a good exercise so far. So in that case, will we move on to the next item? Unless, oh, sorry, Lee, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's just a point that I think going to what John said, really, this create a baseline of existing events and festivals and promote them through existing channels. Should we be considering creating an event in the area? Something that's an annual event.
Well, I love that idea. I'm a bit of an event man, and having pubs and what have you. I create events myself, so yeah, I like an event in an area and something that sticks and you do year on year.
Yeah.
And people come for that, like the gypsies do up in, for example, or I can't think of the big pop one down south. So yeah, I agree with that. Nick.
Yeah, just actually a specific conversation's taken place about this, and for Killamarsh, for example, and it was about the parish leading with it and districts supporting it, and this is where how we can work together. So the parishes would be the best people to lead something like that. They know their village, they know their area a lot better, and district should support it, whether that's with the facilities part of it, or whether there's any monetary side of it, or officer time, or promotion, but let somebody else lead on it, so that district doesn't have to go around the whole district doing these events. We can support the parishes with it, and we'll get more done localized in the areas.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Diana.
Yeah, going back to what Nick said, at Killamarsh, Wingleworth, we did, as a parish council, reintroduce our annual carnival event, Fun Day, call it whatever you will. And it's just grown from the first year. I mean, we get over 1,000 people come. And, it's quite sad we've not been able to do it this past year. But we have had support from the district. We haven't relied on them to actually do it all for us. We got out there and did it ourselves. And it was led by the parish council. And I think this is what we need to do to work with them. There's even funding from DCC to do this. So, yeah, I'm a great one for annual events. And it does bring the community together.
It does. You're right, Nick. Parish, it's probably the way. I mean, I'm trying to resurrect the market, Dronfield markets at the moment, and give Jill Callingham a due. I only contacted Friday, and she's already instigated quite a bit of that already for me. So I'm dead impressed with that. And the people who are behind the market are a lot more optimistic about the whole idea. But it's got to start with people with imagination. Right, folks. Item number 5, exclusion of the public. Martin, are you there? Have we got anything to exclude people for here, Sue?
Yes, Chair. The partnership report will contain certain confidential information to members. So that's why we're going into private session, and it's under paragraph 3 of the Local Government Act 1972.
Right. Okay. Let me just get Martin. Are you there, Martin? Right. Yeah, we're ready to exclude if we can, please. Thank you.